The movie centers on Sydney and her older brother Joseph, who are on the run after a botched job, having stolen a significant amount of money. The film opens immediately after the heist, with Sydney calling Joseph, concerned that she doesn't have the money, only for Joseph to assure her he managed to grab both bags. They arrange to meet the next morning at a diner on the edge of town, intending to lay low for 2 weeks so Sydney can get back to her 6-year-old daughter Steph. Joseph promises her they will be reunited soon, viewing their time together as a necessary brother-sister rekindling before they part ways to start new lives. At the diner, their conversation reveals Joseph's optimistic nature, dreaming of a bigger shop, a bigger house, and a dog for Steph with the $700,000 he secured, more than the $500,000 Sydney thought they were getting. Sydney, more grounded, is immediately uneasy when police sirens force them to flee quickly. Joseph leads them on foot to a remote house, revealing it belongs to a regular client of his who is good for it as a safe house, though he doesn't elaborate on the client or the nature of her property. Upon reaching the secluded location, they encounter a group of rowdy drunk men shooting a gun. Sydney takes charge, expertly chasing the men off with a few warning shots, establishing her more cynical and hardened personality in contrast to Joseph's more hopeful yet naive disposition. They enter the house and find a bizarre, heavily locked room, which Joseph reveals is the actual safe house. He explains the complex instructions for entry, a Latin phrase setting a clock to noon and performing specific movements, spin clockwise then run up. They follow the directions as the police sirens close in on the house, and upon completion the door opens into a strange, empty and silent void. They have successfully entered the safe house and escaped the police. Inside the void, Joseph confirms they are now safe, removed from their original time and place. They spend the next few days in an unusual state of suspended reality, drinking and talking. Their conversation delves into their past. Joseph apologizes for having failed Sydney when they were younger, feeling he left her behind and contributing to her tough life. Sydney, however, pushes back, arguing that his absence forced her to learn lessons and ultimately led to her having her daughter, concluding that she came out ahead. Joseph's only explanation for the magical safe house is his client's trust, and he suggests the property's naval and possibly quantum mechanics connections are responsible. Their respite is broken by a severe ringing in Sydney's ears. She realizes time is up in their present and they have to head back. Make sure we're clear. Joseph seems to have forgotten this plan, and when he finally snaps back to reality, they race back to the inner room. Sydney frantically searches for a key that Joseph insists never existed, and they struggle violently with each other before Joseph manages to pull them through the exit just as the door closes on them. They find themselves in another house, a bar still displaced in time, confirming they're still on the run. Desperate for a better understanding of their predicament, Joseph opens a hidden safe in the bar and finds a bizarre communication device, a tape recorder that interacts with a cycle of time. Through the device, they are contacted by a strange, distorted voice. Joseph hypothesizes that the tape recorder allows them to communicate with two entities, one in the future, the right side who hears the recording, and one in the past, the left side who leaves the response, calling this relationship the vice grip. The voice from the device is revealed to be a member of the future organization controlling this time-displacing technology. They confirm they are not interested in the money but in wiping Sydney and Joseph from existence, stating that being wiped is more humane than suffering from being displaced in time. They haven't wiped them yet, however, because they need them. The organization is being threatened by an unwelcome visitor who is using their doors, leaving destruction, and whom they cannot track or wipe because they don't know who it is. The voice offers a deal. If Sydney and Joseph eliminate the visitor before they reach the safe house and dispose of the body, the organization will safely release them and their earnings back to a time of their choosing. Faced with a devastating choice, death by the environment outside or becoming assassins for a shadowy time-controlling organization, Joseph is ready to take the deal while Sydney remains hesitant and overwhelmed, knowing that they have no other options. The film ends with them trapped, having escaped the police, only to fall into the far more dangerous clutches of the vice grip and their mysterious mission. The desperate struggle of Sydney and Joseph to survive and escape the temporal trap of the safe house, revealing a complex time loop and Joseph's tragic role in its perpetuation. After communicating with the mysterious future organization, the vice grip, Joseph convinces Sydney to take up arms and follow his plan, post lookout shifts, barricade the area, and shoot the unwelcome visitor on sight. Sydney, driven by her absolute need to return to her daughter Steph, agrees, delivering a firm ultimatum to Joseph that if they survive, their relationship is over. As the days turn into an indefinite period of waiting, Sydney attempts to unravel the mystery of the house by studying old photos and documents. She deduces that the land's history stops abruptly after the Korean War, suggesting that is when the vice grip, using time travel technology implied by the naval officer who supposedly died there, took over, using the property to relocate and clean up displaced people. This theory means their unscheduled arrival simply alerted the vice grip, trapping them. Joseph, however, retreats into cynicism, suggesting there is no unwelcome visitor, only a power play to torture them until they die, sparking a bitter argument. Sydney accuses Joseph of working with the vice grip to betray her for her share of the money, while Joseph emotionally reveals his deep regret and self-loathing for having brought his sister into such danger, collapsing in tears. Their tense coexistence is shattered by a sudden intense ringing, the sign of the visitor's arrival. Gunshots ring out and Joseph, in a moment of selfless determination, promises Sydney, "We're getting you home before he is wounded." Sydney, fighting alone, is ambushed by the visitor who is dressed in a hood. During their brutal struggle, a piano piece begins playing on the house's stereo, the same catchy rolling electronic violin tune that Joseph remembered their mother playing. This emotional trigger suggests the visitor might be their long-dead mother. Desperate to save Joseph, who is bleeding and groaning, Sydney returns to the safe's communication device. The vice grip communicates in a normal voice, confirming her brother is alive in the church. As Sydney pushes for more information, the voice reveals a crucial detail. "That's not your mother," Sydney immediately cutting off communication before she can learn how they know this. Joseph, having struggled to the church, uses the tape recorder to send a disguised message to the vice grip, pretending to be the visitor, claiming he killed Sydney and needs assistance tracing the body. He is also carrying the tape recorder in his injured hands. The vice grip, believing the visitor is injured, redirects the signal to Sydney, telling her Joseph is alive and injured in the church. Sydney rushes to the church and finds Joseph in a standoff with the visitor. In the chaos of the fight, Sydney manages to unmask the visitor. It is Steph, her daughter, older and clearly having suffered through years of time displacement. The sheer horror and trauma of this realization causes Sydney to hesitate, and she is fatally shot by Joseph. As Sydney dies, Joseph is taken by two figures, the two sides of the vice grip, who appear as veiled men from the future and the past. They tell him they are not concerned with his emotional plight, they are a bureaucracy seeking results. Since Joseph failed to eliminate the visitor, Steph, they are forced to initiate a wipe, sending agents back to the siblings' origin point to erase them from existence. Faced with the loss of both his sister and daughter, Joseph pleads for one more chance, offering to fix a few mistakes and get them the results they need. The vice grip agrees on the condition that he leaves the bags of money and removes his redundancy, meaning he must kill his past self, the one who still has the money and is about to start the cycle. They send him back to the morning of the heist. Joseph materializes near the house, sees his past self, the one who stole the money and started the loop, and kills him, completing the redundancy request. He then travels to the diner to confront Sydney before she leaves with the past Joseph. However, he is surprised to find that his sister is talking to another Joseph, the one who has just completed the original heist. It is revealed that the Joseph Sydney is now talking to is an earlier iteration of the loop's victim. The Joseph who was just killed by the newly arrived Joseph was an even earlier version, and the Joseph speaking to Sydney at the diner is the next in line to become the unwelcome visitor. The cycle is a perpetual time loop created by the vice grip's flawed solution to their problem. The current day Joseph realizes the horrifying endless loop he has become trapped in. He is not fixing his mistakes but endlessly restarting the cycle and killing his past self, only to become the monster he was sent to eliminate in the next iteration. He tells Sydney the truth. I tried so many times. But now, I'm tired. He tells her to take the money and run to Steph, pleading with his sister to end me, please, before he kills her and continues the loop. Sydney, horrified, shoots and kills Joseph. She leaves the two bags of money, fleeing the diner just as the police sirens approach, exactly as the cycle dictates. The final shot implies that this Sydney, now with the knowledge of the time loop, is the one who will eventually become the next unwelcome visitor, continuing the unending tragic cycle. The climax of the film reveals the chilling nature of the vice grip and the time loop that has trapped Sydney and Joseph. After a terrifying confrontation, Sydney discovers the unwelcome visitor is her own daughter Steph, grown up and displaced in time, confirming the tragic scale of their predicament. In the ensuing struggle, Joseph, in a desperate attempt to sever the loop, fatally shoots Sydney. Confronted by the vice grip, Joseph learns that the organization views him and Sydney merely as failed tools and plans to wipe them from existence. In a final desperate plea, Joseph bargains for a chance to fix his mistakes, agreeing to become a pawn in the vice grip's system. He is sent back to the start of the cycle with a single horrifying instruction: eliminate his redundancy, his past self, to prevent the loop from starting. Joseph accomplishes this initial kill, but when he reaches the diner he finds his sister talking to another version of himself, realizing the loop is not a simple fix but a perpetual self-replicating nightmare. He is an unending sequence of failed attempts, forced to kill his past self only to watch the cycle begin again. Exhausted and broken, the current Joseph tells Sydney the truth and begs her to end me, please, before he is forced to kill her and continue the torment. Sydney, now fully aware of the future, shoots this version of Joseph and flees, leaving the money behind. In this final tragic act, Sydney steps into the role of the next unwelcome visitor, assuring the continuity of the loop as she desperately tries to reach her daughter, condemning herself to the very fate she tried to escape and cementing the cycle of violence and displacement. The film concludes with the horrifying realization that hope is the very mechanism that sustains the vice grip's endless loop. If you enjoy watching this video, then subscribe to Angel Recaps for the latest movies explanation.